Hi everyone, I wanted to introduce you to Eligere, the application I've been working on for the macOS. The main idea behind Eligere is pretty simple. It helps you to choose which browser opens your links based on your custom rules. If you are like me and you use different browsers for different things, for example, one for the work-related stuff, another one for the personal things, or maybe even third one for the local debugging, Eligere helps to make this managing of the opening of the links in the different browsers much easier. So instead of having one default web browser that when you open a link, it always goes into the default one, you can declare custom rules which browser opens which application. For example, you can declare something like this: all Google links should be opened in a Google Chrome, or all the links open it from the Slack application should be opened into Safari. Or even you can be presented with a choice with a UI where you can manually select which browser you should use right now. The main problem Eligere solves is the hassle of managing multiple web browsers for the different purposes. So it's especially useful for the people who had to jump between the different web browsers and you don't want to manually copy-paste URLs and paste it. So you just want to automate opening the specific URL into the specific browser. So I will show you how the application looks like, how it works. We will dive into the config using the config that I'm using on a daily basis by myself. And we'll take a look at how you can install, what are the options to install the application, and how you can start using it today. So first, let's take a look at the main screen of the Eligere application. We can open it. The main screen is actually, it's not what you're going to use most of the time. So it just tells you that the version of the application, the website, there is ability to find the config path, because the config is the text-based TOML file where you declare all of the rules. And this is one of the key features comparing to all the alternatives that you can find on the internet. For example, the choosy, opening, they all provide you with a UI to configure all of the rules and so on, like turn on the features. And I wanted to build something that I can manage fully with a simple dot file. But what you will see most of the time is something like this. Yeah. This is the UI. Well, this is the UI that is based on the my config. So what you can see is right now I'm opening the link, the search in a DuckDuckGo, and it presents me with the two options that I declared in the config file. Two browsers that I'm using most of the time is the Safari and the Firefox. There is a third one, and you will see it in the config. It's actually the min, and I'm using this browser just for the localhost debugging, but it's not presented here. And there are two ways to use it. So the first thing, I can click on one of the links and it will redirect this URL into the corresponding web browser. But the second one is, you can see these small characters, S and F. This one you can declare. In my case, it just corresponds to the Safari and the Firefox. And if I hit one of these two letters, it will choose the browser that is declared to. So for example, if I want to open this link in the Safari, I press S, and here we go. You can see that it opened in the Safari. If I try to do the same once again, and I will click on the F, here we go. We open this in the Firefox. But as I said before, the main advantage of the Eligere application that, yeah, it helps you to deal with the URLs, but the main thing is you can configure everything in the TOML file. So let's take a look at this one. And you can see this is configuration file that I'm using like every day. And you can see that this simple, and you can copy paste it, you can share it with somebody else, and even you can store it in your dot files on the GitHub, so you will always have the synchronization and the backup of the configuration, and you can configure most of the things. So the first one is actually the browsers array. This is where you define what browsers you're going to use with an application. So in my case, it's Safari. There is a shortcut, there is a shortcut. In this case, it's S. This one declares the applications from where all of the links opened will go straight to the Safari. So for example, if I'm clicking something in Discord or in Telegram, they will always be opened into Safari. Same with the specific domain. So for example, if I want to open the YouTube link or the Amazon, it will always be opened in Safari. So we can actually test it. So I have a search over the GitHub. And for example, let's search for OpenCV. I'm using Alfred to do this, and it will construct the GitHub URL with the search query for the OpenCV. And once I hit enter, you will see the UI from the Eligere for just a few fractions of the second, and it will go into the Safari. Here we go. And this is how it works. Same, for example, I have for the Safari, but there is a different approach. Well, I mean, not the different approach, just a different set of the applications and the domains that I'm going to use. So for example, everything related to the AWS, the Google Cloud, all the links from the Slack, they will go into Firefox because I have the separation between Google accounts I'm using in the Safari and in the Firefox. For me, I have to change between them more often, so for me it's easier to switch between the web browsers rather than switching between the accounts in the different Google sites. There is a third one, as I told before. You can see that there is a hidden attribute set to true, meaning that when I search for something, it's not presented in the UI, but it's still here. So if I will open, for example, something like localhost, I don't have anything running, but just to test the rule. So if I will hit enter, you see that it's opened a third browser, which is called min, and I'm usually using it for local debugging, like for the localhost development. But I don't want to use it in any other cases. So for example, every time I open the localhost, it will always go into min, which is very convenient to have two different web browsers. One, for example, to search for a solution or do some other things, and one dedicated specifically to this one. I think it's convenient. There is one thing I want to mention, and this is the default equal true. That was actually a request from one of the users of the Eligere, because what he wanted, that he didn't want to see the UI at all. He needed to use different web browsers as myself, but he still wanted to have this notion of the default web browser. For example, if I will change this one into true, if the Eligere doesn't know the rule for the specific website or for the source application, instead of showing the UI pop-up, it will just search for the default web browser. For example, again, with the DuckDuckGo, if we search for the Eligere, right now it should go into the Firefox, right? That's it. So you can combine these things as you wish. So for example, I prefer to have it visual, so I would just see what I'm about to open and where. But you can do this. You can still have this like the default web browser, but with a lot of the different customizations that you can apply. Strip tracking attributes, for example, if you have a URL that contains all of this UTM source, Facebook ID, or all other things, there is a number of the attributes that I'm supporting right now. Maybe I will expand it more. Upon the opening of the URL, it just removes all of these tracking attributes from the URL and opens it. So it gives you a little bit of privacy, just a tiny bit, but even the tiny bit, I think it's worth it. But I mean, it's up to you. Span shorten URLs. This is why you see a spinner that is working for some time. Imagine you're opening the Bitly link, and by Bitly has a different domain and the domain layout. If you have this into true, then all of these rules will be working for the link that is hidden under the shortened URL. For example, if I have a Bitly link to the YouTube, then I click the Bitly link, Eligere expand this shortened URL, understands that there is a YouTube link as the destination URL, then it takes a look in the config, understands that, hey, I need to open it into Safari, and it just opens it. The downside of it is it adds a little bit of delay because Eligere has to follow all of the redirects in order to get the destination. Again, you can turn it off and on. I have it open all the time, and it's not annoying actually. But I mean, if it's too annoying for you, you can disable it. The only problem that it will always go either into your default web browser that you define in the config, or you will have to manually select the browser that you want to use. How you can install it and how you can actually try it. So there is a website, eligere.dev. I will put the link down below in the video description, or you can just write it eligere.dev. Simple as that. There is a button basically get started. So there are two ways how you can install the application. So the first one is you can use the brew, and you just brew install. There is a dedicated cask for it, and it will install into applications folder. The second one, you can just download the DMG and drag and drop the Eligere into the applications folder. They both work equally, so there is no preference. The only thing that with the cask, you can add this cask or this command into your .files, something like install.sh if you have something to migrate between different laptops and stuff. And there are a few things that you can take a look. So the main thing is this one. Eligere is not your macOS default web browser, and when you launch the Eligere for the first time, you need to make it default one. So once you hit this make default browser button, you will see a standard UI from the Apple that asks you which browser you want to use as the default one, and you need to choose the Eligere, because this is what you're going to use from now on. And once the Eligere is the default one, you won't see bottom banner anymore. And there is a big section about the configuration. I think I didn't talk about all of the possible features because they are hopefully well written into the documentation. So we just open this and there is a list of all of the possible values in the description, how it works or how you can combine it with different features of the application as well, because some of them actually connect to each other. And yeah, and there are some of the examples. When you open it for the first time, it will copy the default config into .config/eligere/eligere.toml, and after you can start changing it from this moment. So at first, I assume that you didn't remove, because it's a macOS, so you didn't remove the Safari from your machine, so this one should work, so it will just replace the Safari. But then what you can do is, if you need to add a new browser, you just need to copy paste this. You just change the name should be exactly the same as you have in your applications folder. Then you can define the shortcut. You can remove the shortcut if you don't want, but I highly encourage you to use the shortcut because it's just much faster. And then you declare the rules like what applications you want to use, this is the source one, what domains you want to open in this particular browser, and so on. And there is a guide on the troubleshooting, there is an email, how you can contact me, how you can send me your logs in case you have any problem. So yeah, I think that's it. And if you try it, please let me know that you tried. Maybe you have some ideas, or maybe you, for example, you like the application or you dislike, or you have the feature request. You can write in the comments, you can find the email address on the website, or you can write me in the Discord server that I have, or you can find me on the Twitter. Let's go try Eligere, and I will be waiting for the feedback from you. Thank you for watching, and I see you next time. Bye-bye.